I told you I was going to do this. Didn't I warn you?
I don't think so.
Well, too bad. Okay, that's why there's two there. One of them goes to the recording. So all the people who are watching the recording, we're just starting. This is our first question. Yeah, go ahead. And by the way, these first questions were from the last panel. So if you're like, oh, they're supposed to be asking spoilery questions. Well, these are their questions from before, so it's okay.
If you had to choose one of your works to be adapted, first, which would you choose? And second, what are some key things that you would want to see in that adaptation?
Okay, great question. So I have always said that I think the first thing I would like to do is a feature film of Mistborn. Now, a lot of people are very pushing for premium cable, which I totally understand. There's a lot of great premium cable happening. But I basically have one epic fantasy series that could even possibly adapt to straight up film, and that's the Mistborn trilogy, right? And so I think that because Stormlight is basically unfilmable as traditional, right? We need, if I'm going to ever get a film, it needs to be Mistborn, right? Because Elantris and Wordbreaker just are not going to work in a feature action film sort of way. And so my goal would be to launch Mistborn first in a way that gets attention and then allows us to do these really solid adaptations of the other ones in a longer form sort of thing. And so what I would look for that Mistborn adaptation, I think that it has to, like there's certain things you can jettison. Like I don't think you have to spend so much time on like the ska revolution and things like this. I think that the team dynamic has to work, particularly the Vin Kelsier dynamic, and I think you probably want to focus that on Vin, even though the book is focused on her, even a little bit more in her journey. I think that's probably the key to making it work. But you know, there are various ways that could happen.
What do you think is the book that you had the most fun writing?
Book that I had the most fun writing of all the books. I would say probably the most fun would be the Wax and Wayne series. If we're just looking at pure fun. It was Alcatraz before that, but it became Wax and Wayne once I started writing those.
Hi. First, I'd just like to thank you for all your books because they're like my favorite ever.
Oh, thank you.
And for making Kaladin exist.
Yes.
So I have a bet with a friend because we're not sure if it's pronounced Shalon or Shalin, and we've been wondering for a while. So can you tell us?
The audiobook narrators sometimes don't make that very obvious, do they? I say Shalon. So here's the thing, though. Let's point it out that this is my personal philosophies. I believe that a book is not finished until it's read, right? Until it's read. So I give you most of a script, and you add the special effects, the visuals. You're the director, I'm the screenwriter, right? That's what I love about books. It's a little more participatory than a lot of other forms of media. So I say that people have line item veto to my books when they read them. You get to decide how the characters are pronounced in your incarnation of the book. You can even say, this character doesn't look like that. This character never said that thing. Basically, I am handing you something that you direct in your head, and it becomes yours. I say some of the character names wrong according to how they would say them in World, right? I'm American, I say Kelsier, right? I'm not going to say Kelsier. It just doesn't roll off the tongue, but that's more like how they would say his name in World. And so I will point that out. The right way is the right way that you want it to be. I can be wrong for your version of it. But I do say Shalon. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, another pronunciation thing.
Yes.
I would just like to know how you say it. Is it Renarin or Renarin?
I say Renarin.
All right,
yep.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, actually.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was wondering what your favorite book was to write and your favorite character.
So favorite book to write and favorite character. So I usually answer this the same way Robert Jordan did. I heard him answer on an interview this once where he said his favorite is whoever he's writing right now. Because as a writer, they all need to be your favorite, just like all your kids need to be your favorite if you're a parent. And whoever you're working on at the moment needs to be It needs to be the best, needs to be the most exciting. You can't be, because this was really dangerous for me early in my career before I got published. I was always looking to the next thing I was going to do, and I didn't give always the attention to the book I was working on. And one of the things that propelled me to becoming professional is when I made that distinction. So, good question.
What gave you the inspiration for Cytonic Slugs?
What gave me the inspiration for Cytonic Slugs? So the Cytonic Slugs came into existence when I started writing a short story I just called The Eyes. Now this was a much later derivation of the Defending Elysium story that I had originally written, where I wanted to tell a story about human refugees in space who were fixing a hyperdrive that turned out to be a living thing. And most people didn't understand that the hyperdrive was a living thing. It was a secret. And I started writing this short story, and the lore was not clicking quite right. And in that one, they were like these glowing things. They looked like a power source, so people didn't know they were alive. And the whole story didn't work. It wasn't the right rebuild of things from Defending Elysium. So I shelved that story. Sometime I'll just let you guys read it. I may have put it out, I can't remember. But if I have it, I'll let you. I only got like 2 or 3 pages into it. But that idea kind of kept going in the back of my head. And eventually when I was writing and building Skyward, I knew what I wanted was something that would look innocent, that Spencer would mistake for being the ship's hyperdrive. Right? That would just look like it was something just there. I like to hide things in plain sight. It's one of the things I like to do in my stories. And so putting a cute slug in, why a slug? I don't know. I just like the underwater, the sea slugs that just kind of look all cool. It was one of those, I'm like, that's a cute thing I'd like to have as a pet. They're really something you can't, in our world, have as a pet. You could have them in a fish tank, but you can't get it out and play with it. What if you had one you could? And so I built that as the hyperdrive and then started having her teleport around so that when you found out about the hyperdrives, you're like, oh, it's been there all along. That makes sense. The only thing that I had to tweak from my original draft is I realized eventually MBOT was going to have been crashed there for a long, long time. So Doomslug had to be the great-great-great-great-granddaughter of the hyperdrive for that ship rather than the actual hyperdrive. So,
All right, so this one is a spoiler.
Okay.
So I'm rereading Stormlight right now.
Yes.
And I was reading about Axes the Collector.
Axes the Collector, yep.
And the Amiens. And I was thinking, Amiens and Honorspren have a lot in common. They can change their appearance. They are blue. They don't seem to die. Are those Amiens descendants of humans and Honorspren?
No. Good question, though. The reasons that they can change shape, though, are similarly related.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent question. I've never been asked that one before.
All right, proper Stormlight spoiler question here for you. So at the end of Oathbringer, Taravangian makes a pact with Odium about defending Kharbranth. Can you please spare Kharbranth?
Yes.
At the end of Rhythm of War, I asked the Cosmere panel the same question earlier. At the end of Rhythm of War, is that still relevant? Does he still have a pact with himself?
Raffo! You're our first Raffo. Excellent question. I like the way you guys are thinking, but oh, you got a card. Here's your card. Here's your card. Raffo card. Badge of honor. All right.
Probably be 2 for 2. My question is, what phrase did Vivenna use to awaken her sword?
Oh, yeah, here you go. Badge. You got your card. Woo.
So my question's about squires.
Uh-huh.
So through different ways, you've confirmed that bondsmiths, windrunners, skybreakers, dustbringers, and lightweavers all have squires. You've also said that not every order will have them. Could you confirm whether or not another order has them?
That another order does another order have squires? Yeah. Is there an order we have seen that we don't know? Yes, there is another order that has squires.
You can't get more specific?
Yes, the Stone Wards do have squires usually.
All right,
yes.
thanks.
You don't get one. Ha ha ha. I answered your question.
This is a random question that came to me during the Cosmere panel.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a forger like Shai who plausibly had an opportunity to ingest Lerasium and become Mistborn, but she passed it up, could she create a stamp that makes her temporarily a Mistborn?
So she would have to have access to enough investiture to make that happen, right? Like the stamp saying, hey, I'm a Mistborn, doesn't actually give her the investiture to do that. So she could rewrite her past so that she took that bead. She would not actually be able to use the power until she got an infusion of investiture, which could be done with the stamp in the right manner, but most of the time, you're gonna have to have some external source. Basically, you're gonna have to take a hit of investiture, a large amount of it, and then use the stamp, and then it will feed on that to train you into basically any of the other magics. Yes, if you could get a hit of Stormlight that worked, the problem is Stormlight's not easy to get off of Roshar, and it still is technically keyed. You can get it a lot more easily. Stormlight would work fairly well, but what you really want is some pure unkeyed door, right? Like that stuff you can do all kinds of things with. But, you know, it's kind of dangerous. But that's the stuff that you're going to want, or something like Unto-It. So,
thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Are Soulburner and Starburner the same project? And can you give us an update on either one of those if they aren't?
They are the same project, yes. And it's still going and going very well. I am not allowed to say what it actually is because it's not up to me. You can infer what you want from that and try to read between the lines, but I am not contractually allowed to say what it is right now.
Thank you.
Same project though. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Nightblood, I guess, has like more investiture than any other being that right?
No, not
really.
every other being, but
Well,
definitely one of the most highly invested individuals that we have seen.
Yeah, but
there you go.
So Nightblood, I guess he's used to wound Odium. Is Odium now weaker than he was before?
So not in a relevant and, not in a relevant way. Technically, yes. Not in a relevant way. How about that? The amount taken compared to how much there is pretty small, and a whole bunch of what happened there was focused on the vessel, not on Odium itself. So, yeah.
But like, could Nightblood consume Odium?
Nightblood would get full before consuming even the smallest fraction amount of Odium. So as you saw, like Nightblood kind of got full in that instance. Actually, it was with the perpendicularity. It would be similar to that. So for those who are wondering, no, you can't stab Nightblood into the planet and absorb the planet, right? Nightblood is really dangerous, as we've seen, but we're not talking absorb planets dangerous. All right?
As much as I would love to ask questions about Kelsier and win myself a Raffo card,
okay,
I'm going to go for something much less grand.
Okay.
I noted, well, actually, fiance noticed, while reading Rhythm of War, that Szeth references birds other than chickens.
Yes.
When he's training with the Skybreakers, he uses an analogy that they scatter like sparrows before a hawk.
Yes.
So there are other non-chickens in Shinovar.
Exactly, yes.
Are they going to end up, I mean, probably not being like AVR, but like, are we going to see more of them probably in book 5?
You will see birds in book 5, most likely.
All right.
Whether or not they are like AVR or the weird fish, I will leave as a Raffo, so you get your card anyway and ask your question.
Thank you very much.
But the 2 AVR you have seen are not native.
So are the Ghostbloods on Roshar the same organization as the set on Scadrial? And if not, is the...
I will tell you this. The things that come out, so I'll just go ahead. The Lord of Scars is Kelsier. They're not hiding something there from you, okay? I'm not being tricksy like I was with the Sovereign and things like that with it. But so that you can trust that. More about that will be forthcoming in a book that might be released about 1 year from now.
I wanted to ask about two shards that aren't necessarily been confirmed about their existence. One I call concealment, a shard that we haven't figured out about because its whole thing is that it conceals itself from the rest of the Cosmere.
Okay.
And the other one is I call unity, and I think it's a shard that that might be two different shards later, sort of like harmony. That Dalinar gets. Do either of these shards exist, or will they exist?
Plausible existence of one of the shards you have talked about.
Do I get a Rapho?
That's not a Rapho. You got an answer. You asked, will they or would they? Plausible. I can't say what will happen. I can say things are plausible. So I will say that the ways you're theorizing, and some of the things you're saying here are intentional on my part, and you are following correct paths. So, good job.
So, in The Way of Kings, there's a death rattle that reads, "He must pick it up, the fallen title, the tower, the crown, and the spear." And my question is simply, have the events alluded to in this death rattle occurred on or off screen by the end of Rhythm of War?
No.
Could the tower, the crown, and the spear possibly be referring to Renarin?
Rapho. Good question.
So we have this wob that says you can split at metal into atium and lerasium, but not through normal means.
Yes.
And in Rhythm of War, we see Navini changing the forms of light by removing the connection to the other stars and introducing new ones. Is that the same way that you would turn at metal into atium and lerasium? Or by similar means?
That sort of science would possibly lead to the proper method. It is a good way to be going. But it's not exactly. Let's say there are multiple ways to do this. Some are less dangerous than others. The way you're theorizing could lead to a less dangerous way. Okay.
And if you were to do that to a live living shard blade, which you said could be called Honor's God Metal, what would that do to the Spren?
Okay, if what happened to the, one more time.
So if you did remove the connection.
Remove the connection for a blade like that.
And then gave it ruins connections.
Yeah, you would have a really hard time doing that.
Okay.
Because it's actual individual. It'd be the same as cutting off a person, which is possible, but you're talking about stuff like what a shard blade does to a soul, right? And so you would have a hard time, and it would have not happy effects on a living individual that happened to. But it could be done.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, how's it going?
We will just assume all the applause from before so we can keep moving forward was for all the wonderful questions and answers. So there you go. That way you don't all have to, yeah.
All right, so my question's about Teravangian.
Okay.
And the diagram.
Yes.
So the diagram was basically created to help Teravangian kind of figure out if he was having a bad day or a good day. Kind of.
I mean, that's not one of the reasons they were founded, but it's certainly one of their duties.
Yeah. So, and we realized and we found out that it was also because it was because Odium helped Teravangian figure out the diagram.
Okay.
So now that Todium exists.
Oh, I haven't heard that term. Oh, you guys and your nicknames.
So now that Todium exists, will he still have to use the diagram and go forth with the diagram?
So,
and
yeah.
How will that kind of shape what this contest of champions is going to be? And
so I won't tell you how it's going to shape, but he now has access to what Odium could do, which is limited ability to see the future, and a little bit better than a lot of the shards are at that. And so he can see what the diagram was an inferior version of making in a lot of ways. So in other words, the physical print thing, the diagram, is no longer necessary to him.
Okay. So now that it's Todium,
yes.
Will he have problems with having his good days and bad days?
Raffo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I have a card?
Mm-hmm. You did. Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm.
And so in the first interlude, the first epigraphs in Rhythm of War, we get Navani's lecture on the different metals, and it talks about how the different metals can do different things to fabrials. Have all of the 16 metals in allomancy been tried in relation to fabrials?
No.
Okay. Have they discovered any others with different effects?
Any others that she didn't talk
Yes.
about? I don't know. I'm going to say no, but it's possible that there's one I'm not thinking of. Let's just say certain people in the Cosmere are very aware of this now and are very quickly experimenting with the metals that Navani is not able to get a hold of easily.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever expect when you first started writing the Cosmere to have this many questions asked about it?
Excellent question. So, no. Right, when I started writing the Cosmere, if you want to look at the very first, I started writing the Cosmere to keep myself excited about a grand epic behind the scenes while I was trying to break in, right? All those early books that are unpublished. The Cosmere back then, quote unquote, was just Hoyd doing stuff, right? The grand scheme of the Cosmere was not designed as what it is until I started writing Mistborn. So even Elantris did not have the grand scheme of the Cosmere. It was retrofitted for when I started building the Cosmere, which was the Mistborn era. But when I first started, it was just a way to keep me from feeling like I needed to write a big, long, multi-book epic when I knew that I couldn't break in with one of those. I needed to be submitting. If you haven't heard the story, an editor rejects book 1 of a series. They're not going to pick up book 2, right? You can't get Eye of the World rejected and send them The Great Hunt. And so I had to write first books. And I started hiding Hoyd in the books as a way to keep myself, excited about the idea that there would be an epic someday.
And have you turned a person's theory into something in the book?
I'm sure that I have. The question is, if I've turned someone's theory into something in the book, I'm sure that I have at some point. No, I know that I have. When someone asked me, for instance, they were getting some bisexual vibes from Shallan. Someone asked me on Twitter, I'm like, I feel like I'm writing that without realizing it. So yes, I think that, and so I leaned into that a little bit more in the more recent book because it felt very realistic and natural to her character. And so there's an example. Sometimes people will ask me things like that, and I'll be like, I feel like I am doing that, or that's a direction I am going. And it happens with plots and things too. So things like that. So yeah, fan interactions do influence the books on occasion.
So Teft is one of my husband's favorite characters.
I'm sorry.
I was wondering if we would get to see him again.
Well, you get to see him again? Well, you can read the books again. It's not okay, how about this? If I write the Lopen story that's supposed to go between books 1 and 2, like that, then he would appear in that book. So it is possible that you will see more of Teft, but you are not going to see, yeah. Sorry.
All right, Hero of Ages spoilers.
Okay, Hero of Ages.
Ending spoilers, so.
Yep, everyone knows this is all spoilers. This is nothing's off the table.
Why didn't Tensoon and Vin ever meet up before she died?
Why didn't what? Oh,
Tensoon and Vin.
And Vin ever meet up? I just could not get it into the story. I did consider trying to make it happen, and there are just too many things narratively that I was doing, and it just didn't end up working out. I don't feel terribly bad about that because in some ways loss requires, you know what I mean? Like you don't always know and things like that. But I do regret not being able to get Matt and Perrin and Rand back together one last time in the book series. That's one that I think I should have tried to stretch. I tried to go to Team Jordan and be like, hey, we can do it like this. And they're like, you just can't do that logistically. But I think if I'd pushed harder, I could have found a way to make it happen. So that's one of my regrets there. I don't think I would change Tensu and Vin just because of the nature of loss for those books. And I did try. And artistically, I felt it didn't work. So good question. So
most of the time for Nightblood, we see, from the point of view, he is seen as male.
Yes.
But for the short time when Lift is talking to him, it says she.
Yes.
Is that important, or is it just up to the perception of
it is up to the perception of the individual. And Lift perceived Nightblood as a she.
Okay.
And Nightblood doesn't care. Yep. So.
Is Vasher aware of the Venus sword?
Vasher is aware of the Venus sword by now.
Okay, and does he approve of it?
Vasher needs more information. I'm going to say his initial response is, that's stupid, never do things like that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes. But I haven't written the Nightblood book yet, so this is one of those ones that when I write the book, it might turn out that I need to accelerate some of that, so he might actually have known by then. Right now in the timelines, he didn't know. It happened after, yeah. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. So, big asterisk on book that's not written yet that, that the outlines could change on.
So shards can't break oaths, and new vessels have to follow previous shards deals. Ruin and Preservation made a deal.
Yes.
Does Harmony have to follow that deal?
Oh, right. The Ruin and Preservation deal is considered fulfilled. Right? So there's a lot of things going on in here. So the way that oaths work, perception is still important, right? And shards can break deals. It gives others a way to get at them, right? Like, Honor could break his deal. He absolutely could. But, or not Honor, Odium. Odium could break his deal. But if he did, that's very dangerous to those who would seek to have advantage against him. I think fulfilled is the wrong term. The deal between Ruin and Preservation is broken and no longer in force because it was broken. Does that make sense? Okay. And this does leave Ruin with more advantage in the situation, but they're the same individual, so I'm sure that's just fine. No problems at all. Everybody's doing just great.
Okay, so Renarin, as we've seen, is not a normal truth watcher, whether you want to call him corrupted or enlightened.
Mm-hmm.
Is he the first truth watcher of this kind to have existed?
What an excellent question. Yes, he is.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Excellent question. Yes.
So I've got a spoiler question and a writing question.
Okay, great.
First off, is Nightblood more or less susceptible to damage and or death when he's satiated on investiture?
Satiated, he's much less dangerous. More susceptible, I would say by technicality, yes. Because if he's full, it's going to be harder for him to pull in things. And so therefore, you know, all sorts of things could happen, right? So yes. Okay. But it's not that he's weaker, right? It's not like the metal is easier to break or bend. It's more that, you know, he's not as likely to suck your soul.
He behaves, so he behaves more like a regular sword.
Yeah, a little bit more. I mean, still, for human levels of investiture, it's still really dangerous to touch him, right? Right? Like, he's satiated, but if he's like at 100% and the amount of you he could eat represents 0.001%, The moment a little bit of that wears up, you're gone, right? So still would not be picking him up in most cases, just out of that, like, oh, he just got a little hungry again. But in terms of like larger grand scale shard stuff, much safer to handle.
Okay. And then, is there any amount of glee that you feel when you write Moash's actions?
No. With Moash, I don't feel a lot of glee. There are people that I feel glee for writing and things like that. With him, it's a different emotional experience with him. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a theory that I want to know if I'm thinking around the lines, because if I ask if it's correct, it's going to get Raph.
Okay.
So I believe that Trell is a vessel of autonomy due to there being a character named Trell in White Sands and autonomy being there. And I believe that Kelsier gets the idea from Trell to use vessels, and that's what he goes on to use as the leader of the Ghost Bloods.
I think that you are theorizing in interesting directions, and I would not squish that theory. Mm-hmm. That's not a Raffo. He didn't want a Raffo. So.
I was inspired by your work to continue working on a tabletop game. If you need someone to adapt Stormlight or Cosmere to 5e, let me know.
Okay.
Will we see the fate of Aldenasium's cognitive shadow?
Will we see the fate of Aldenasium's cognitive shadow? Raffo, I won't even establish if there is one. So good question, but I will not say yes or no to even if one exists.
Okay. If one were to riot or soothe out of a cadmium bubble or a bendeloid bubble, would the emotional allomancy be effectual? And if so, how would it be affected by the speed bubble? And then how would that work in reverse?
Okay, so if you were to, someone's inside a bubble, speed bubble or slowness bubble, and you are shooting allomancy into it from outside, would it have an effect? Would it still work? And the answer to that would be yes.
Okay, and then shooting out of it?
Yes, shooting out of it should work also. It is going to be affected, though, by this. And, oh, thank you, Kellen. Let me see. So what's going to happen here? I think that depending on the speed of it, you're going to end up with a stretching or a condensing of it. So working kind of like, so if you're doing it from inside a bubble, you could probably effectively get something like a Duralumin hit of it. And if you're doing it from outside in and they're moving very fast, you're going to have a much lesser effect.
Would it have a randomness like the bullet?
It wouldn't, you probably wouldn't be able to target. I suppose, no, you would be able to. I think you would be fine because you can do kind of a cone and things like that. And so it might be hard to hit the specific individual, but I think that it wouldn't be as much trouble as with a bullet. I think you'd be able to do it. With Duralumin, you could probably get, well, the thing about the Duralumin is if you wanted to like extra Duralumin it, right? What you'd have to do is eat some within a speed bubble, use it, then eat some more and use it, right? And you could therefore kind of multiply up what's going on in the same, so yeah, so does that make sense? So yes, you could do that. You would just have to do it multiple times. That'd be a fast bubble, right? Because you're piling it up. So more time is passing for you than people outside. And so basically, you're doing like 5 times Duralumin push in one burst. It could probably get pretty dangerous on people's emotions and things like that. So there you go. So, how does Duralumin affect speed bubbles, Rafa? What's that? Yes, you can. Ooh, you wanted one. There you go. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. All right, we got 21 minutes left till the reading, so we should be able to get through a number of these, but just warning you.
In Secret History, we see orbs of connection that Kelsier uses, and it draws lines between him and other objects. If Vin were to, in the Well of Ascension era, use that orb and also could pull the mists in, would she be able to steel push or iron pull on non-metal objects?
So here's the thing. There are ways to steel push on non-metal objects, but that's not the method.
Atium alloy?
What do you mean by atium alloy?
Atium steel alloy or atium iron?
Oh, okay. We're straying into Raffo territory. But let's just say that it is possible. Yeah, here, you can have your Raffo.
So obviously the shards are like the top dogs in terms of power and stuff, but Hoid seems to be his own level of dangerous. Are there any other characters as sort of rivals to his ambition or power?
It depends on how you want to express it. Some of the dragons from Yolen are as old and are very crafty. You could argue that the Aethers, the actual core Aethers, are as ancient and potentially powerful, right? I wouldn't put them straw power on shard level, but they would claim that they are. So depends on what you would think there. There are some other individuals of a similar, not as dangerous as Hoid, but on a similar level, been around for thousands of years, investigated a lot of the magics and these sorts of things, but there's a few for you.
Cool, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so Kaladin is now learning how to counsel people on how to balance what they've had to do, which is destroying things,
yes,
and their desire to protect or preserve things. So will he be of some benefit to another individual who is trying to balance those two things
somebody
together?
that he's been teamed up with.
Yes.
Yes, I would say that yes, he could potentially be of help depending on whether or not this individual wants help.
Well, specifically, is Harmony?
I thought you were talking about Zeph.
No, I was going.
Could he be of use to?
I was trying to be polite, but yeah.
Could he be of use to Harmony? Maybe. In a theoretical world, I think the more people Harmony had to talk to, the better. So I would say yes, but I was thinking specifically of Zeph.
Small other question on light weavers. You're saying that they're possibly going to be able to do lasers and things in like space era. Could a light weaver conceivably create a Kugelblitz?
A what?
So it's when compressing enough light into one space that it makes a black hole.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that that's beyond the power level of your average light weaver. But I mean, who knows? Maybe if you have a black hole, yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
So,
Thank you.
but good question. I've never heard that term before. That's kind of cool. That'd take a lot of light. Yeah. Hoid is a light weaver now. Yes. Yeah. But Hoid does like playing with fire, let's say. He should not be a light weaver. Hoid should not be a light weaver. Hoid is too close to various things that happen with Dawn Shards. He is playing with fire.
Hi, does Demo
Yes.
know that Kelsier's still around? And if so, does he know about the Ghost Bloods? And does he still idolize Kelsier?
I will raffo that. I will say that, I would say that you can assume that if he did know, he would not be as idolizing. It would only take getting to know him to destroy some of the way that Demo reviewed. Does that make sense? So.
Can you compare the kinds of compulsion that are caused by being an epic with the kinds of compulsion caused by being a vessel?
Compulsion. I would say that crossing the streams here. So I'd say that the compulsion with being a shard is much, much stronger, but your capacity as an individual is increased, and so your ability to learn how to deal with it is also equally increased.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting one, yeah.
Okay, so I got 3 questions. One for me, one for a friend, and one from Bo Peterson.
We'll try to make them fast. All right.
Okay, so are the colors of shards an indication of how they or their magic systems interact with investiture? Like Ruin, Hemalurgy, Nightblood, Steel's investiture.
Not really. Vaguely.
Okay, and will Harmony continue, or like, will he make Mistborn to continue the power legacy. That's for the friend.
There's your Raffo.
And then Bo Peterson wants to know if any of your published works were a National Novel Writing Month project.
So Way of Kings Prime was done during National Novel Writing Month, way back before I got published. None of the others do I remember actively writing, saying, I'm doing NaNoWriMo, here we go. That's the only one that I can think of. And even that one, it was the middle of the book, and I just did it with my friends. So I don't know that I can count any of my books officially that got published.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day. Bo Peterson says hi.
Say hi to Bo for me. Defiant will be the first really, truly official one if I actually am able to finish 50,000 words. I got 10,000 left. And then 50,000 more of the actual finish of the book, right? So, yeah.
Okay, this is more of a curiosity, might not be spoilery.
That's fine.
But what would a Kandra look like in Shadesmar? And do they have any special abilities in the cognitive or spiritual realm?
Not sure if I want to canonize what they would look like. How should I say? I will Raffo what they look like. There is nothing that they would have as a special power over a human being in the cognitive realm necessarily, except for the fact that they are trained to think of themselves in certain ways, right? They have a mental training. Someone else could learn this, but they have over many centuries this ability, and your ability to perceive yourself in certain ways is very powerful in the Cosmere, and the Kandra are very good at this.
So it would be less limiting than on the physical realm where they have to adopt the bones and persona.
Here's the thing. If they went to the cognitive realm, they'd go there physically, so they'd be under the same rules, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so, there's a theoretical whatever out there that maybe you could have, for instance, if they got killed and their soul and things like this. But on most cases, your Kandra would just go like Eamon would, and they would be following the same rules.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you got a Kandra who somehow persisted as a cognitive shadow, they would have certain advantages over people who had not trained in perception the way they have.
Nice. Thank you.
Okay, so 2 quick questions. Oh, well, one of them may be more complicated. Can Wax talk to Harmony with his hearing from another planet or from another system?
This is theoretically possible, yes.
Okay. And then the second one, the spirit web is composable into chunks that are added based on circumstances. Could you manufacture spirit web patterns out of raw investiture in such a way that you can, instead of cutting something from someone and grafting it to someone else, actually manufacture the chunk desired from investiture and put it on the person?
Yes.
Nice.
They don't know how, but you could. Yes. Synthetic meat, synthetic souls, possible.
So I actually have a Wheel of Time question.
Ooh, Wheel of Time question. Whoa. Ooh.
So I was wondering if you could shed some light on a pretty mysterious character that shows up right at the end.
Nakomi?
Exactly.
So there are a couple of things that Harriet has asked me to not reveal that she said I might be able to reveal at the 10th anniversary of A Memory of Light coming out. These are specifically Nakomi, and the mysterious thing that I've warned everybody is really cool that I can't tell them about, that I have encouraged them to theorize on. So I will ask Harriet if I can talk more about Nakomi come then. Let's just leave it at that. So good question, but I can't answer yet. Thank you.
I have 2 smaller ones. What would an edge dancer think of snowboarding?
They would probably think it's really cool and glad that mundane, normal people can experience the joy and thrill of what is every day for an edge dancer.
So when the Inquisitors were trying to track down Vin, it said that they actually followed Reen's scent. How did they do that, and why didn't they just follow...
Follow Vin's scent?
Yeah, because Vin was the Mistborn.
Right. I believe, now I'm going to have to go back and look. It's been a long time. I believe when I was using scent, there. I'm using it like they knew what was going on with Reen, and so they were tracking down Reen. They were, yes, trying to find Vin, but their lead was Reen, right? And so what I believe I'm talking about there is just that they wanted to get to her through him, and they had a lead on how to find him. But I'm going to have to go look at the specific context of that one, I'm afraid. I do not have that one off the top of my head. Sorry.
So you've said before that Tien was on the track to becoming a Lightweaver before
Yes.
he, What lie was he telling that was attracting a cryptic?
What's that? What lie was he telling that was attracting a cryptic? Well, that's a very good question. Do I want to get into the whole Tien thing? Okay. So, I mean, Tien was hiding a lot of sort of belief that he was not a good person, that people didn't want to be around him and things like this. And he was hiding a lot of that, and he knew that people saw him as kind of a burst of sunshine. He didn't ever want them to not see him that way, and that was really hard on him. Let's just say like that, as it is on a lot of people who are like Tien. What's that? Did he like rocks? He really liked rocks. The fact that he never got to meet Rock is... It'd throw a bucket of water on him. Yeah.
Okay, so with Tien, feeling you're gonna Rafa, whatever, this, but so close to the end of Rhythm of War, Dalinar connects Kaladin to something, which gives him the vision of Tien. Did he connect him to Tien's dead soul? And if so, does Dalinar know what he did?
All right, so there are two prevailing theories on what happened here among Cosmonauts, in-world, Arcanus. And you would get different answers. The most common answer is going to be that Dalinar attached himself to the spiritual realm, pulled out possibilities, and showed one of those to Kaladin. Right?
If so, where'd the horse come from?
What's that? If so, where did the horse come from? Either pure coincidence, or some sort of matching of fortune to the moment that then ended up leading Kaladin to the place he needed to be, which is way a lot of fortune works. Like, fortune would be like, you should go here, and you don't even know why. And so that's what the Arcanist answer would be. It would be the most common answer. Some people would say he reached into the beyond and connected Tien to Kaladin via Tien's actual soul. I will leave these both as equally valid theories. As I've said many times, I am not going to say whether there's an actual afterlife in the Cosmere, because it is too foundational to too many characters' beliefs or lack of beliefs or worldview in world to have the author contradict them. Either way.
Since you didn't actually answer my question.
I did. I totally answered your question. I gave you two answers. Ask me how the book ends. How does the series end?
Sure, how does the series end?
Raffo. 6 more minutes, guys. Some of you back there, I'm afraid we may not get to you.
Okay, first, has Kelsier held a gun?
Has Kelsier held a gun? Yes.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yes. He is not Batman. He's not above holding a gun. He would call them an inelegant weapon, or whatever it is Obi-Wan said. So uncivilized. Yes.
Either way, I'm scared. And also, would Yasna be able to handle Odium's power with her experience handling strong emotions?
Would she be able to handle Odium's power? She would be a good candidate.
Will she become Odium?
Oh, come on. Now you're just fishing for Rappo cards. Now you're just...
So, I have like 2 or 3 questions. One is, I just can't find this anywhere. So, it's referenced that that on Roshar, a foot is longer than is Cosmere Standard.
Yes.
I can't find anywhere how long it actually is.
That's going to come down to questions for Isaac and Karen. Not that you should go ask them right now. Mainly what's going on is we have to have height charts and things like that. The reason, let me talk about the reason for this is, I want to be able to say something in world like, say, Callan's about 6'4", right? So that people can picture him compared to the people around him. If he's probably closer to 7 foot compared to people from Scadrial, right? But if I say he's 7 foot, you're going to imagine him of the wrong proportions and size compared to the people around him. And so I went ahead and said, we will use feet, but scale them different in order. This is just me kind of fudging for your perception. When you see actual people from Roshar next to people from Scadrial, particularly tall Alethi, they're going to look like giants.
Okay. So second thing, for specifically, about necrosal chromium, and how do those have any interaction, or if so, how, with people using especially Farukami and just other investiture in general?
Meaning speed bubbles or what?
No,
Nicrosil. Okay.
Yeah. So like Leecher and
right.
Could
you use those on ferrochemists like you could? You should be able to. Yes.
Would that only work while they're tapping it?
If it's active investiture, probably yes. You would probably need it to be kinetic investiture in order for them to do anything about it.
And then one more thing. If Harmony was able to acquire more shards, or potentially all of them, would he be able to reforge Ad Nauseam?
Raffo. You're just fishing for a raffle card too. All right.
Okay, so I'm up here for my dad and for me. But first question, is there any meaning behind the name Ad Nauseam that we could know in the moment or find out?
I mean, other than the fact that I look to real world languages for inspirations in order to evoke the right feelings. Like if we technically were going to how all these names were in the Cosmere, they may not actually be those names. I'm picking names that evoke the right things to people in our world. So how about that?
Okay. Second question, this is mine. If somebody were to generate enough of an anti-light, like anti-storm light or anti-void light, could they create an anti-shard? Or if not, could they create an anti-light nuke?
There you go, Raffo. I mean, yeah, there you go.
Okay, so if there was an aluminum misting that convinced themselves that aluminum outside of their body was inside their body, could they burn it?
No, good question. Perception can affect a lot of things. That's not a case where it would.
In Kaladin's fight with the Punisher, his eyes are described as glowing a color not quite the same as usually for corrupted investiture. Is this supposed to be that he's burning a different light?
No, it's more he's on the border of some dangerous stuff. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. Is that a Matt costume?
Yes.
Thumbs up. Oh, nice scarf. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've got.
Okay.
I've got two quick questions that probably just be yes, no's, or raffos.
Okay.
We know that light weaving is a Yolish magic, and we also know that stone shaping is somewhat like a gimped microkinesis. Are there other surges that are also versions of Yolish magic?
Yes.
Okay. And the second question is, we know that any person can burn Lerasium. Are there other god metals that any person could burn?
Yes.
Okay.
So I feel like I have two FOs here, but Sazed says something in a letter that's like, I'm surprised that the power doesn't pool back in one place. Can we infer that Honor is not dead?
That what?
That Honor is not dead.
Honor is not dead?
Yeah.
What? Well, that's not where I was expecting you to go for that question.
Oh.
So Raffo, yes. So you go ahead.
I forgot that.
Okay. Well, you do get your Raffo card. So that's not where I was expecting you to go with that question. But I will Raffo that.
Is hemalurgy the way that that they returned in the Desolations?
What's that? One more time.
Is hemalurgy the method that
Oh, did they know hemalurgy during the Desolations on Roshar?
Yes. Is that how they returned originally?
No, but that's a good question. They knew some skill similar, but when they originally were returning, it was something else. Good question.
Could Navani open a perpendicularity when she got far enough in her oaths?
Could Navani open a perpendicularity? This is theoretically possible. So yeah, there you are. Oh no, I'm not raffling you. You don't get one. All right, last question, and then we're gonna do rings. Sorry, I will have a Q&A tomorrow, but I can't have you all line up there. But yeah, you can't get first tomorrow. I'm sorry, it would be too hard to, there's too big of a line. But I will ask, if you're here today and you asked a question already, please don't get in line tomorrow. Let somebody else have a shot, okay? So, I am sorry, let's do last question. Sorry, what's that? Can they all get raffles? No, you know what? Actually, if you're standing in line there, I did not answer your question, so you may get a raffle card and pass them back. Only to the people who are already in line. Don't do it if you weren't. I did technically refuse to answer your questions. So, all right. Whoever up here said that, you guys owe him a drink or something.
In Rhythm of War, Nightblade broke off a piece of an honor blade, meaning that could you technically pulverize a honor blade to the point where it wouldn't exist, and if so, what would happen?
You could pulverize an honor blade to the point that it wouldn't exist. It would be, so you would basically need to repair it with investiture. And if you didn't, then it would happen, the same thing would happen to shard plate that got, or an honor blade. You would just be making, basically it's changing form. Does that make sense? So either you would end up with a bunch of dust made out of god metal, which you could do stuff with, or you add investiture and reconstitute it, or you get it to change back into its one of its other states.
Okay, thank you.
So those are all possibilities.